Happy Wednesday and welcome to this week's Slice of Advice. I'm really excited about this week because I don't know about you, but I think that the internet is an incredible thing that ends up connecting us in a way that we didn't expect. So today I'm going to be joined by Kitiya Palaskas. Now, Kit, I would say, is a professional crafter. It's a weird thing to say, but she is a professional crafter with an incredible colour aesthetic and use of tools, and she's a little bit of an idol of mine. So the fact that I have her on this week is actually pretty exciting. And I know that I'm not the only one, because leading up to this, having on the stories, I had on click to get the notification that we're going live. And there was a lot of people that were like, oh my goodness, I love her aesthetic. So that's really exciting. But before we get started, I just wanted to remind you guys that I currently have my pricing calculator to help you work out how much you should be, like the dollar amount you should be putting on your hour. So if you head to easyaspricing.com/calculate, you've got that there for you to help you work out how much you should be charging. So without further ado, I'm going to accept her onto the... I'm very, very excited, clearly. It's fine. I'm having fun. Wow, that is a colourful gosh damn entrance. Holy!
Did you expect anything less from me?
No, not even a little bit. I love that. Yay, I love her too. Yes, Emily. Em and Kit, you both need to meet each other. But anyway, without further ado, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm really, really excited because, as I was mentioning before, we kind of have only ever met over this form, really.
Yeah, the power of Instagram.
The power of the gram, indeed. I actually think that I was first introduced to your stuff by a fellow creative, Kate Pullen, who
I love her.
know and love.
Hi, Kate.
Right. Hi, Kate. But Kate actually, I think she must have posted something about, I think it was part of Locker Room Talk. And so I did a little bit of an Instagram stalk. And then I think that was about the time that you were doing the Acme activation as well.
Which actually, that feels like it was like 5 years ago, but I'm pretty sure it was this year.
Yeah.
That's how Disney weird stuff? Time is. Yes, the Disney stuff.
Disney stuff. Just the Disney stuff. So for those who don't know or who aren't absolutely blessed to have you on their feed every week, tell us a little bit about Kit.
Well, hi everyone. I am Kitiya Palaskas. I'm a craft-based designer and content creator and an author. I live in Naarm in Melbourne, and I have been running my niche craft-based design business for the last 11 years. I specialize in prop design, installation design, graphic art and illustration, creative workshops, and content creation for all sorts of different clients, mostly in the commercial design space. And I would say that my work bridges the gap between craft and design. So the output is a design output, but the techniques are craft-based.
Yeah, that is like so spot on. He's just like, and here is me on a silver platter. Da, da, da.
Usually I get really flustered when people ask me stuff like that, but today I don't know. I've just had a coffee, so maybe I'm just like on point with my elevator pitch.
Yeah, no, look, I will be completely honest with you. About 15 minutes ago, I was finishing up a nap because I was painting murals and like interacting with people all morning. So I was just like, I'm done. I need to be awake for Kit, so I'll go sleep now. But now I'm back.
If that was me, I wouldn't have woken up. So good on you for doing that. Good on you for waking up on time.
You're worth it. You're totally worth it.
Oh, thank you.
So I really love that you have kind of touched on, you've created a niche and a really interesting niche for yourself. So I think the words professional crafter come to mind. And in my research that I do, like on my guests, I came across some pretty exciting things. You've literally written the book on piñatas.
I have written a book on piñatas, yes.
Like
I
that's
don't
just
claim to be a piñata expert because obviously Mexican people are piñata experts. I'm just a piñata enthusiast who wrote a book about it.
I just when they go around when you're little and they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And like I feel like that was something that we didn't expect. We didn't think that was going to be actually, we're able to be a piñata enthusiast slash author, which is really, really cool. So congratulations on that.
Thanks. It's
But
pretty
the thing
niche,
that,
pretty
yeah,
niche.
yeah. Well, the thing that I also really love is that you show a lot of your behind the scenes work. And I want to kind of touch on, because obviously being Slice of Advice, talking a lot about pricing and how to turn your creativity and craft into your creative crust. This is something that I think is really, really important, is that, you're doing it for a love of creativity and a love of what you do, but you're also obviously doing it so that you can earn a living. So I love that you kind of show all the different bits and pieces of behind the scenes, but how do you kind of work out, one, how to solve creative problems with craft, and two, how to put a price on that sort of situation?
Well, that is a really hard question to answer. I will
I
try my
know.
best. So the first of all, I think I when I get a brief or when I get approached by a client, they say something like, "Oh, we would like you to create like a life-size donkey pinata." I'm using an actual example from reality. So that's a job that I've done in the past. And so then I guess the problem solving and like ideation part of it is my favorite part, because then I
Me
go, okay,
too.
yeah, if only I could just make the ideas happen all day and then someone else did all the making. That would be so
You
fun
don't want
because
to
I
cut
love the
out
ideas part.
thousands upon thousands of petals. I don't know why you wouldn't want to.
At this stage, she's tired. She wants a
Yeah,
rest.
I get it. I
But
get it.
yeah, I guess I just then think, okay, so a lot of the time when people ask me to do things, I've probably made something similar at a smaller scale, for example, or in some other way. So I just pull on all of my previous experience. I kind of know, like the craft techniques that I'm known for working on, or like that I'm known for. So I start with that as the base, and then I experiment and do like a million handmade mock-ups and just try to see and use all my skill set together to work out how I'm going to create this new unique idea. And a lot of it does come down to experimentation. But 11 years in now, I think a lot of the time when I'm approached for things, it's based on stuff that the client has seen that I've done before. So I
That's
already have a base level.
awesome.
Yeah, which is where you hope to be after this long. Um, so I have a base level knowledge of the techniques I might apply to the project. But then
Yeah.
always it's really fun when they come at you with something that you've never done before, and you get to then just go into this problem solving mode and experiment and work out how you're going to make that a reality. So that's the creative side. The pricing side, basically, I have an hourly rate which I worked out when I first started 11 years ago, and each year, if I feel that I have gained new skills and am more employable as a result, I'll raise my rate. Because if you're working in like a 9 to 5 corporate job, for example, which I've worked in before, you
Yeah.
just, especially like if you work in higher education, for example, you get a raise every year. You don't necessarily have to do anything to get
Just
that. I mean,
exist. Just be you. And
sometimes
also
you
like a
do.
response to inflation and all those gross adult things like that.
Yeah. So why wouldn't you give that to yourself is what I think, especially if, like, for example, this year and last year, I had to really level up my video production skills. In fact, I had to create video production skills. I didn't really have any prior to COVID, but because of COVID, I had to pivot. I hate using that word, but I had to
Yeah.
pivot
Okay.
to do more stuff online, because obviously, photo shoots weren't happening. I couldn't make props for events because they weren't happening. So I feel like I have boosted my skills so much between that time and now. So the pay rise I gave myself this year was very big
Yeah, and
as a
it's
result,
response
because
of becoming more valuable, because it means that you
yeah,
don't, like, for instance, and I'm going off of my experience. Like if I had to create something and then the client wants me to include video in it, I would work with a videographer or work with a team of video and that will become part of my cost as well. But if I'm also doing that, it doesn't make sense for me not to be paid for that as well.
Absolutely. And then, so I guess after I start with a base rate, and then I work out kind of like how long or what the labor cost will be based on time and all that kind of stuff. And there's lots of things that fall into that, like not just the making time, but the creative direction, the concepting time, the material sourcing, because sometimes for specialty projects, it can take up to a week to source the right kinds of materials and call up for different quotes from fabricators and manufacturers. It's really complex. And so you could spend the majority of an entire week just sourcing materials, and that's time that you've taken away from being able to do work for another client. So that's valuable, and you have to charge for that time. And then, there's other things on top of that. So if it's content creation, there'll be licensing fees for usage of my work. And I'm really lucky at the moment to be working with an agency to help me with that side of things, which is a nice relief at this stage, because I can focus more on the creative side while they take care of the negotiation of price. But I still do all my own quoting and pricing for my prop design work. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It definitely does. Like, I feel like, and that was one of the things that I've found a lot of the time is when people are not necessarily right at the start of their creative career, but a little bit in, and they're struggling with pricing, and they're sitting there, well, I don't know how to charge this because I've not done it before. Experience does become not necessarily just like, oh, I charge more because I've been doing it for 5 years or 6 years or 10 years. It's actually a reflection of I've experienced literally all of these different things, and I kind of know, you know what, if we do it this way, it is actually going to be taking this much longer. And if we use this particular paint or we use this particular product and it's a lot harder to work with, it's actually going to take 3 times longer. Like it's that experience that kind of dictates your level of value, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also, I guess when it comes to, because what I do is so niche, I think it's sometimes hard for potential clients to understand my costings because they don't understand what goes into it, which sort of harks back to what you were saying before about I do a lot of behind the scenes kind of content. And part of the reason why I do that is, one, to keep my audience engaged on social media, but also strategically so that if any potential clients are watching, they can actually see what goes into a project. It doesn't just start off as, hey, I'm doing a project, and then I snap my finger like a trending TikTok video, and all of a sudden the project is complete. Like, I want to show,
or like the design button, press design button.
Yeah. I want to show the process, because I think it's really, it's my way of educating potential clients on the value of handmade, because I think it's something that not necessarily everybody understands, especially if you are a commercial client that's been working primarily with like photographers or graphic designers, and not necessarily, or prop stylists and not necessarily prop makers. So
yeah.
Now, but I also,
sorry, no, you go. You go.
I was just going to say, I also think that part of pricing is, and you probably talk about this all the time, but like, is confidence and having a sense of self-worth and knowing what you're worth. Because if you don't have a good sense of confidence in your abilities, then I find that people tend to undercharge. And so you could actually be charging a lot more, but you're just scared that someone's going to say no because you don't think that it's worth what it actually is. So I think that comes with time and experience as well.
Yeah,
you can't just
experience
have
is definitely
that.
Like the punch card that you kind of have to fill out. And I hate when people are like, oh, you have to kind of do the bad stuff and the grunt work and everything like that. But there is value in actually have tried 17 different adhesion methods and none of them have worked, or you've had like an experience with a client and it's blown out the timeline 3 times. But now when a new client comes along wanting the same thing, like, you've learnt what doesn't work really quickly.
Absolutely. And like, you can't just be a professional in any field immediately. Like, you have to have the experience so you know what works and doesn't work for you, and like, you have to make the mistakes or get screwed over financially because you priced wrong or something in order to know, okay, so that's not where I want to be headed. I'm going to make these improvements and whatever. And yeah, that just comes with like year upon year of building your business, I guess.
Yeah, and I think there's also value in being a specialist in something that not necessarily everyone is trying to be. So, you know, I definitely believe, I believe that anyone can design, but not everyone can design like I do. And I believe that everyone can craft, but not everyone can craft like you do. And I feel like it's one of those things where if you can place yourself as the specialist within the section, you're able to straight away have a little bit more confidence that you're doing the best things that you do really well, and showing up as like the best version of yourself, and actually showing up as the high priced, high cost professional that can actually do that specialized thing. And you're not kind of racing to the bottom for price, I guess. Whereas I feel a lot of like other people who are like, I'm a designer, I'm an artist, and then they just like, but I'm cheaper than this person, so therefore I'll get the job. And it's like, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and I've never experienced that, because I literally don't know like who to compare myself to, because I've made myself so niche.
Oh,
I know there's people, sorry, my cat's tail is just in the way. There's people doing similar things to me, of course.
By the way, just like the flattest of faces.
They might make an appearance during this live. I don't claim to be the only professional crafter in the world, of course, but I think like the combination of things I do is quite unique. So I haven't ever had anyone to bounce pricing off. I've only ever had people to kind of who are maybe adjacent to talk about pricing with. So I've always just charged what I thought I was worth without comparison. And there's no kind of like government standard pay rate for what I do, which is, I actually think that that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing, especially if you're going to hire like an assistant or something, but sometimes it's a good thing because it means you get to determine your worth, not the Australian government. You know what I mean?
Kind of cool. Like, you're not only defining what you do well, but you're also defining what the dollar amount is on that. And that's
but
really
then
cool.
You have to defend that if a client's like, why on earth is it this much?
My honor. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I also, the other part that I really like is you leave room for play. And I feel like that is so important, like creative play. The first thing that comes to mind is the clay vase, the paper mache vase, that you did a couple of weeks ago. Not that I'm stalking you. But also like you get to actually show that creative play, because I feel like it's both part of your client education process of showing what is the possibility and what can be created with someone who makes things, basically. But also giving yourself some space to go, oh, I've tried this new thing and I kind of like it's how it's all coming together. Do you then take those kind of concepts and pitch them, or do you just kind of put them out into the universe and kind of wait for that to come back to you?
I think that I kind of just add them. I don't necessarily pitch them unless an idea is being chatted about with a client where I can see that new technique that I was playing around with might work really well. So that happened on my last prop job, where I actually had a little bit of experience with the paper clay. So I decided to suggest it for some props I was making for a local perfume store. And so I used that technique in there. But yeah, I would only kind of add it to the service or techniques list that I'm able to offer clients if I felt like I had mastered it enough to be professional, because a lot of that stuff is still experimental. And then there's some things that I like to do that are just for me. I kind of like to protect some of the craft things that I enjoy doing and not try and monetize those techniques, because I don't want everything to be that I enjoy to be about making money off it. So, but it's it's like a blurry, and I feel the same with, content creation, like whether or not I choose to film these experiments and these fun times, I always struggle with that, because I want to provide content, because you kind of have to also if you want to like beat the algorithm on this app that we will not name. But yeah, like I also don't want the content creation, the act of filming it to ruin the act of creating. Yeah. I don't want to be
I feel
sitting in
like
front of a
sometimes,
camera experimenting. Sometimes I just want to play by myself,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I feel like sometimes they're going, I'm really enjoying this thing. This would be really good on camera. No, stay in the moment. Like, come on, like just
Yeah.
stay in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was me with painting and stuff like that. I just wanted to also say, Dark Hours Co. said, just wanted to pitch in and say thank you, Kit, for paving the way forward for craft-based designers. Your work and practice makes my little creative heart sing. And I echo
Oh,
that sentiment. That
I
is
love that.
so true.
Thank you. That's nice.
So, when it comes to projects that you've done in the past, do you sometimes go back and kind of reassess? We in corp speak, we call it a retrospective, but do you kind of go back to projects that you've done in the past and gone, did I charge right for this? Is this something that I want to do going forward? Like, what's your process with that sort of thing?
Yeah, I usually review each project after it's done. For myself, I don't share it with anyone what my review is, but I kind of go through and jot down in my journal like what worked, what didn't work, and that could include the costings. And then I write notes like, okay, next time I can see here that I spent X amount of hours, so I track everything. So like X amount of hours. I'm a nerd, so like I just really love
I
to.
get it. I
I
totally
love
get
it.
the nerdy.
Yeah,
Like I
love it.
I love a good nerd out moment. I definitely understand it. My nerd out moments at the moment are building calculators for people to work out their pricing. Like that's my like coding moments and everything. Yeah, yeah.
That sounds exciting. I'd love to use one of those. But yeah, so I will track things and then I'll see, okay, well, I charged X amount for this, but I took way longer than I actually anticipated at the start. So next time I do a job of this magnitude or using this particular technique, I know that I need to charge more, for example. So I think it's really important to keep some kind of record, or even just if it's like a brain dump at the end of a project while it's still fresh in your mind, like, okay, these are the things that worked, these are the things that didn't. I struggled with this. I found this part easy. This part needed more time and money. Even just feeling stuff, like sometimes I'll do a job and I'll be like, I actually really hated the entire thing. I love the result, but that's just taught me that maybe I shouldn't be pursuing these kinds of jobs because I don't actually like whatever that technique was that I was using. I don't find joy out of making stuff. Sometimes you have to do jobs that you don't enjoy, of course, but
which is true.
Yeah, it's good to know what you like and don't like so you can pursue the stuff that you like. Yeah.
I in the past have had seasons of no and seasons of yes. So like I'll do a season of yes where I just say yes to every single kind of different opportunity and try it out. Like you don't know whether you hate it or not. And then I get to a point where I'm like, okay, at capacity or higher. No, not doing that again, not doing that again. Like, I feel like it's really important to our creative process that, I'm not sure about you, I'm a bit of a people pleaser, eldest daughter, millennial Virgo to the extreme.
Yeah, me too, except Sagittarius.
Oh, nice. That means that your birthday's soon, in about a month. Just over.
Yes, it is.
When's your birthday?
7th of December, everyone. I'm putting it out there now. If you want to. Oh, December babies. If you want to send me a gift, by all means, please
send her a craft kit. Were you a kid that like you got lots of craft stuff when you were growing up, or where did the love of craft start? So that just popped off my head.
My mum is like the craft queen, so she just had a room of craft stuff, and she didn't necessarily give me craft gifts, but I just went in her stash and used all of her things. In fact, when I was a teenager, I went through this phase of when I was learning how to make my own clothes. I would always just go in her craft room and take all her fabrics and use them to make clothes for myself. And I should have asked permission because some of them were really special fabrics that she had, planned to do things with. And she'd always come home and go and do her quilting project or something, and like half the fabric would be cut up and she'd just get so mad.
It's the equivalent of like saving something in the fridge for yourself and being really excited to get home and then someone's eaten it and you're like, damn it.
Yeah, that also happens to me daily because my partner likes to just eat all the leftovers that I had saved for my work lunches. He's not going to watch this, so he won't know that I just ragged him out online. Sorry, Matt.
Mine definitely does, and he definitely will watch this, so yeah. We're very lucky to have them. But yeah, I like that. That's kind of like my mum's a crafty mum as well. She's one of the crafty and cookie. So she likes lots of cooking and making and baking. Back home in Adelaide, she cooks pre-cooked meals for our butcher shop. So I used to be a butcher for a very long time.
That's cool.
But yeah, something a little bit different. But she would also teach us a lot of crafting and picked up calligraphy pens and cut up pieces of paper and layered everything like that. So I really like that. That's kind of an inception sort of thing, and it's what started it.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I really like that. What's your favorite thing to craft, or like favorite technique at the moment?
Oh, well, I'm going to be 100% honest. I am totally burnt out, so nothing is my favorite type of craft. Holidaying is my favorite type of craft right now.
Fair.
But usually I think this is an interesting question, because I think I'm most comfortable with paper craft as a technique, but it's not necessarily my favorite. It's just one I do really well, and I've sort of made a name for myself using paper craft techniques. But at the moment, I think I'm actually just really into upcycling furniture. Like, it's not necessarily crafty.
The chairs. They were very cool.
I've always loved upcycling, but I've really just leaned into it this year, and I'm really enjoying it, because it's like, one, I love op shopping and, or thrift shopping if you are not Australian. And I just love the treasure hunt of finding like thrifted items. So that's a whole thing, but then transforming it into something new, and then that whole ideas, like, problem solving kind of process. Yeah, I love that. So I'd say that's my current favorite.
I love that too. I tend to be the handy one in this household. So I bought myself my sander and my drill.
Oh, yes.
But I love a good drill moment. But I'm currently upcycling. I love a good IKEA hack as well. So, like, how you've had.
I have an IKEA hack it's sitting over here. I haven't done anything yet because I haven't had time, but I've got that and a locker that I'm going to upcycle when I have some time.
Nice. Mustard
I'm really
made?
excited. No, it's just a crappy locker I got from Facebook Marketplace.
Nice.
And I'm going to like paint it, and then I'm going to create some decals and like decorate the whole thing with different kinds of decals. That's the plan.
With your decals, do you use a silhouette or a Cricut?
A Cricut at the moment, yeah.
Nice. I've had my silhouette for like 5-6 years now, so I'm sure it's like 3 or 4 generations too old. But I'm currently upcycling. I'm like painting all of these doors and drawers of one of my IKEA things, but I've actually got a coffee table that I attach hydraulics to and another table, so it like lifts up and is our dining room table, and then lifts down.
Wow, okay, that's next level upcycling. I haven't quite got into the mechanics aspect of any kind of upcycling project yet, but you'll have to show me.
Look, I'm just going to have to wait until I can get it like battery operated so it does it itself, or something like, futuristic and weird and cool.
Oh, that's cool. That's very like Fast and the Furious of you, but with furniture and not cars.
And a lot less like horsepower.
No nitrous oxide.
No.
So I was at my friend's house last night, and she had this amazing water feature that she'd made. She has this amazing courtyard in the back of her house, and she made like a bubbling water feature. And I was so taken by it that I then went home and Googled like Moroccan tiled water features. And I think I'm going to try and upcycle one using like tiled MDF and a terracotta pot. But I literally dreamed of the sound of her water feature last night. So I was very inspired by that. So I think that might be my next big challenge, is how to make my own Mexican/Moroccan inspired tiled water fountain for my courtyard.
Ooh. And realistically, the terracotta is going to go really well with one of, I believe, your key colors, which is cerulean, which is right behind you. It's like, just pops.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. Let's see if I can make it happen.
And also, I wanted to congratulate you on your recent Adobe Max feature, which I was like floored, impressed. Like, I was like, oh wow, I know someone who's speaking at Adobe Max. It's amazing. Like, that's so
thank you.
Massive achievement. And you gave me a little bit of an insight on how you kind of got there. But I didn't actually, yes, Team Cerulean, yes, Chanel Kristen.
Yes, great color.
Agreed. So like you've been doing stuff with Adobe for quite a while now, but like that must have been a really awesome kind of moment to get to be at Adobe Max.
Yeah, I mean, I love speaking at conferences, and I haven't really had a chance to do that many of them or speaking engagements in the past couple of years, obviously COVID. But yeah, I had spoken at a previous Adobe conference in 2015, and so I think I was on their radar. But I really mind that I like chased and manifested and mined that opportunity. I think sometimes a lot of people can look at the opportunities of people they might follow on Instagram and kind of not jump to conclusions, but just be like, oh wow, that came out of nowhere. But
yeah,
there is a whole, like, a lot of the time when you kind of get stuck into it a bit more, there is a lot of like work that goes on behind the scenes to create opportunity. Like, I do believe in luck and that in the right place, right time kind of vibe for things. And there's been times where I've been contacted about opportunities that has sort of come out of the blue, but a lot of the time it's kind of like what you put out is what you get back. So with that particular opportunity, I actually went to America like 2 years in a row to go to this one conference to network with people like Adobe who would attend as sponsors of this conference. And I paid that ticket myself. I applied to be part of the conference. When I got there, I like hustled for 9 days straight, which if you've ever done any networking, you know that that's very exhausting.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, and then, I met them, I got on their radar. I ended up forming a relationship with them, which fast forward 2 years, I became like an ambassador for one of their products. From that hustle, I guess, and then that ended up culminating in being invited to speak because I'd already done lots of different educational sessions teaching about Adobe products. So I think it was sort of, that was the pathway to Adobe Max, but it was a bucket list conference of mine to speak at. So I was sort of all swept up in the, preparation of it and having to plan my talk and everything that I didn't really get to pause and appreciate that I ticked an item off my bucket list. So that's something that I think I need to do better at, is pause, because we're always just rushing on to the next thing or worrying about what's going to be next, especially as a freelancer. You're like, okay, that job's gone, the money's been paid. What am I going to get paid for next? Where's the money coming from now? So I really didn't pause and reflect on how proud I was of myself for doing that. So I'm going to have to do that at some point.
Well, if you're watching on the live, I'd love you to give some hearts, because I'm going to give her an absolute clap and applause, because it was amazing to see an Aussie crafting creator to be on such a global stage. And it gave me a little bit of wondrous hope that I'm like, maybe one day they'll take the pricing queen and put her on a stage.
Yes, they will. Absolutely.
Look at all the love hearts. Yes!
Yay, thanks everyone. I think for me that speaking at a digital design conference was really special because that's not my world. I mean, I use Adobe products every day for my work, but it's not necessarily my world where I, come from in terms of design. And I've always had a little bit of an insecurity about my ability to do anything to do with digital design because it's not, what I cut my teeth on. So that was really validating for me personally, just being like, okay, so a digital design company thinks that I'm legit enough to speak at a conference about digital design products. Okay, like I think, I suffer a lot from imposter syndrome, as like most of us probably do. And so things like that, if you pause to reflect on them and acknowledge your achievement, really help to, whatever it is, at whatever level, I think really helps to combat imposter syndrome.
Yeah. One of the ways that I've kind of been combating imposter syndrome in my own kind of world, when you feel like you're going nowhere and you're doing like you're spinning your wheels, but you're like, I haven't achieved anything. I have this. So this is my little jar of achievements. It is an old candle jar. But every single time that I finish a job, I fold it up, because I write everything on Post-it notes. I fold it up and I put it in here. And so having this in my periphery of being like, okay, soon you're going to have to empty it because you have done so many things.
That is great.
For me. But like,
I've got
today I
a similar
achieved.
thing. I've got a folder on my phone called "You're Doing Great," and every
That's
time I
awesome.
get something like an invitation for something, or like I've been featured in press or something, I'll screenshot it and put it in that folder. But I actually like your idea better because I like the idea of when the jar gets full, you're like, oh my God, I've achieved so much that I need to empty the jar.
Yeah.
That's cool. Maybe do you mind if I use your idea? Because I love
Well,
that.
I actually made a reel about it a little while ago of like, when I've done a job, I take it off the wall, I fold it up, and I put it in my little jar of achievements, my secret weapon. Like, so yeah, it is a what is it? License free, enjoy for your
Royalty
own,
free.
royalty
Royalty
free.
free imposter syndrome cure.
And I
I
feel like
love
we
that.
have to do those things because as slightly negative as it can sound, if you aren't going to be open source inspo, thank you, good press.
Yes, great.
So if you aren't going to be the one that's going to hype you up, yeah, you're going to have like your friends and family that sometimes will understand what you're doing, but a lot of the time I feel like our friends and family, as much as they want to support us, they don't quite get everything that goes into sort of certain things, and
Yeah.
they support, but it's different when it's someone that you don't necessarily know, or it's a different situation. But I feel like, if we're not going to be hyping ourselves up or hyping each other up, who else is going to?
Yeah, and the validation has to come from you. Like, I think it's really great to, have things like the acknowledgement jar and the "You're Doing Great" folder, but also like, if you can't accept your greatness, then you can't grow because you're just constantly going to think that you're not good enough. It's easier to say, it's easier said than done,
Most
obviously.
definitely.
It's a challenge of mine consistently, but yeah, I just think like having a sense of self-worth and confidence goes a long way.
Yeah.
To like, especially as a creative, because we all seem to be plagued with low self-esteem about our creativity. I don't know what it is about. I mean, not everyone, but like I definitely am.
I think I read this brilliant quote that was something like, we as superheroes can't see our own capes. Like, everyone else can see it, but we can't. The only reason why we can't see our superpower is because it comes so naturally to us that we think that everyone else can do it. And I actually experienced this earlier today. I did a live mural this morning for
Oh yes, I saw that on Insta. It looked great.
it was a really cool experience. Like, the whole premise was only half paint it so we can paint it with you during the event, basically. And you don't realize how good you are, or fast you are, or talented you are at what you do well until other people try to do it as well, and you go, that's how they do it. That's how they.
Wow, was that just like a really lovely validating day for you of your skills? Were you just like, I'm a professional?
But it was also really interesting to see how other people perceive what your superpower is, because there's always going to be people who like it and who sit there and are like, I'm just going to watch you paint, or I'm just going to watch you craft, or I'm just going to watch you do what you do. And there's other people that pick up a brush and try and get frustrated really quickly and go, I thought this was going to be easier. And then there's the third one. And the third one I find really interesting are the ones that sit back and go, no, critique. That's not what I would do. That's what I would
that's
do
a tough type of person to deal with. That's tough.
And I'm doubting your ability. Now, this is something that I actually put up on a Post-it note in front of me. So those who doubt you are simply doubting that they could do it themselves.
Oh.
And I feel like that's like been a really big theme for me lately, because a lot of people sit there and go like, oh, I could do that. I could do that.
Yeah, it's so easy to be like a keyboard warrior type person and make a judgment. Or I think like the kinds of people, like you said, the kind of people that sort of do that might be maybe thinking deep inside, I wish I could do that. Yeah. But the outward projection is, I could do that. like
Yeah.
they're trying to kind of put you down so they feel better that they aren't doing it right now. And that's
Which
just
is a really interesting way to be, but I think as
yeah.
creatives, inviting those people to at least try is kind of really important too.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize they actually have I find this a lot with my creative workshops. Like people will come and say, "Oh, no, I'm not crafty. I'll just watch my friends do it." But then they get into it and they actually create the most amazing stuff, and it's in there. The creativity is in there. It just needed to be let out. Maybe they have a job where creativity is not part of it at all, or maybe they don't have any creative hobbies because their hobbies lie somewhere else. And so they surprise themselves by realizing they actually are creative and enjoy being creative.
I love
But
that
they just
moment.
need the context or the opportunity to be able to do it. And so if people like that come to my workshops, I always encourage them to at least just have a play. Maybe they'll do it and what they said was right. They'll realize it's not for them. But a lot of the time, most of the time, they actually realize they love it.
The person who was the most obsessed with painting this morning is one of the guys from accounts who loves spreadsheets. Like I just love that he was just like, oh no, this part's not perfect. I need to do this. And like he was like, do you have any other brushes? I really want to get into this little bit. And I'm like, look, dude, I'm happy to facilitate you with as much of what you need to be able to get the experience that you get. And I feel like you would have the same thing in a lot of your workshops.
Also, it is the accountants and the, corporates and the admin managers and those kinds of people that actually end up getting super into it. I think there is like a mirror of skills, but in a different genre. Like, that attention to detail, you can apply that to craft and then create something really amazing. It's that you're using the same bit of your mind just in a different way, which is really interesting.
Definitely. I think it's the that pursuit of creativity, but in a different form, because maybe they get absolutely like off chops for a good spreadsheet situation, and then they're like, oh my god, I can do this too. Look, we all have nerd alerts. You and I, we have nerd alerts. Definitely.
Oh yeah.
So building this creative career, creating these situations, who is your, I don't like to say dream client, because to me dream clients don't necessarily fit I kind of think what I'm pursuing or what others could be pursuing, because they may be a dream client but they're a terrible payer, or they are really micromanaging or anything like that. But like, what would be a dream project for you? And I'm also mindful that you're burnt out at the moment as well, so it's like once Kit has recovered, what would she want to do?
I would love to work on a movie, like a feature film, like preferably a Wes Anderson film or something of the description. I think that somewhere that's like a movie that's really creative and like kooky, a little bit kooky, and I feel like that's where my work could lend itself well. And I've never really worked on a project that spans a long period of time. My jobs are usually real quick turnarounds. Maybe a month. I can only
imagine the quick turnarounds that you get.
Some of the turnarounds are too much, too quick. But yeah, like maybe they wouldn't go for longer than a month, let's just say, except for when I wrote my book, but that was a slightly different scenario. So I'd really like the opportunity to see how I could create work that spans, a whole bunch of time and a storyline that's really complex and all the different things you'd need. And, I'd love to do something like that. I've done a few music videos, but I really like music videos as like a storytelling device, because you have to tell a story within, a couple of minutes. And a lot of the time, especially nowadays, people get really, really over the top and creative with what they're doing for their music videos. They're actually almost like mini films. And so you can be really creative, and a lot of artists are really embracing high levels of very original creativity. So I think I'd love to do more music videos, or just creative direct an entire one, and then like all the props and everything. And I was saying to my friend earlier today that I would really like to design the fit out of a bar. I think that would be really fun. Like a Kitiya Palaskas bar, like even down to
which
things
I feel like it
like
would just be like the whole thing is colored and all of the cups are wiggled.
Yeah, you know what? Probably. And I would also want to design everything down to like the coasters and like the swizzle sticks and the drinks and like everything about the experience of being in there. That would be super fun. I feel like I mean, they're all achievable, I guess, if you dream big, but that's sort of one that I could do, you know, like now.
Something.
Just
Just
not
something
now,
different.
maybe like 2022. So if you have any
Look,
opportunity, if you're watching this
2022.
and you have any opportunities for me like this, come at me, but come at me in 2022.
Like give me like a timeline. Like just give me a little bit of time. I definitely can feel that. I've definitely got big plans for 2022 personally. It's going to be
That's
a
exciting.
massive year. I just love the fact that I'm for those who don't know, my new Easy as Pie pricing course is actually coming out in end of January, early February, which I'm very, very excited about because it's becoming much bigger than I ever expected, which is really cool. And then I think that the last week, I think the last class is on the 25th or the 26th. And then on the 29th, I get married. So,
Oh, you know, congratulations. That's exciting.
yes, yeah, you know, and then that's been we're getting married on our 10-year anniversary by our primary school
Love it.
teacher. So
I love that. That's so cool. I actually just looked at my calendar and saw that my wedding was meant to be on Sunday,
oh my goodness.
but it's not. It's not happening, obviously. But yeah, I forgot about that. So I was like, oh, babe, we were meant to get married on Sunday. We didn't tell anyone either. We didn't send any invites out because we kind of knew like it was probably going to get cancelled. And then I forgot I forgot about removing it. Oh, that's so exciting. Yeah, I forgot about taking it out of my calendar and I just saw it and I was like, oh, wow.
Whoops.
Maybe we'll go for a drink somewhere. Like we'll celebrate
Yeah.
in some way.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. So throughout your 11 years of being a professional crafter and just badass bitch of color, what would you say is the best piece of advice that you've been given when it comes to creativity? And then what's the best piece of advice you've been given when it comes to pricing?
Okay, so in terms of creativity, no one gave me this, I just kind of learnt it, is just to, like, you can design your own creative life. You don't need to wait for anyone to give you the opportunity. You can create the opportunity yourself, especially in 2021, in this age.
Yeah.
Anyone can make something out of themselves, and there's so many platforms and like tools to help you do that. So you really don't have to wait for someone to come along and like give you your dream job. You can make it happen for yourself. You're a creative person, so you'll be able to work out a path to get to where you want to be. And I think that there's a lot of power in that, and a lot of people think just because society kind of structures us as we grow up to, you know, climb a ladder and get given promotions and opportunities and things. So you might think that you can't actually make a dream career for yourself or a dream life, but you can. So that's that. And in terms of pricing, I mean, it seems I'd love to give like an actual pricing tactic, but it's more psychological. Like we said before, I think it's just really learn what you are worth and have like really work on building your confidence and knowing your worth, whatever that looks like to you, because if you don't have that at the base, you will continuously price yourself incorrectly. And you'll find it really hard psychologically, because I think a lot about pricing is psychological. Like you'll find it hard to set prices for yourself, and you'll always second guess yourself because you won't have the confidence to know what you deserve to be paid.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And as someone who has had a couple of jobs recently where I'm like, I wouldn't have charged that a couple of years ago. I would have been too scared to, or like, I think one of the things that we do as creatives and people pleasers is we price like it's coming out of our own wallets and our own back pockets, and we're like, I'd never pay that. Well, you aren't.
Yeah.
You aren't the one that's paying for it. Crazy.
Yeah. That's a good thing to remember. That's really good advice. Yeah.
It's definitely been one of those things where, like we said right back at the start, it's about experience, and it's about learning that experience in that process. So I love that. That's really, really good advice as well. thank you so much for being on here today. And thank you for those who don't know, I hit up Kitty last week.
Oh, last minute stuff is like how my business
Your
operates.
jam. It is very much
So
your jam.
I'm used to it. So no problem. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me. It's
Not
been
a
great to
problem at
chat to
all.
you.
So for those who haven't already found you, where can people find you? Where can they hit you up for their 2022 projects? And where's the best place to hang out with you?
Okay, so I guess if you're watching right now, you can just jump onto Instagram to my profile, which is at Kitiya Palaskas, and hit the link in my profile. There's a link there to my website. There's a link to like an inquiry form if you're interested in working with me. But I do suggest heading to my website to learn a bit more about my services and stuff if that is what you're looking for. On the website, there's also heaps of DIY projects if you want to try some craft for yourself, and also creative resources like blog posts about creative well-being and creative business, which I'm really passionate about those two areas. And then you can also join my newsletter. So I send it out fortnightly, though at the moment I'm doing this special holiday gifting DIY series. So it's going out weekly.
Cool.
So you can join that for exclusive DIYs and just musings about creativity and creative business.
Love.
So, yeah.
Awesome. And if you have joined us from Kitiya's Instagram, I would just like to let you know that I have a pricing calculator on my link in bio link. So basically, the Easy as Pie pricing calculator gives you the opportunity to put in what your desired salary is per year, sprinkle in your expenses, fold in your hours, and it will pop out on a silver platter exactly how much you should be putting as a dollar amount on your hour. That's the start of it. But head to easyaspiepricing.com/calculate if you want to access the calculator, or head to my link in bio. Kit, thank you so much. I know that I'm definitely going to be like randomly sending you videos of like, I had a what would Kit do?
Yes, please do. Thank you, Jasmine.
That's what we do. But thank you so much. Have a great Wednesday.
Thank you, you too. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.